Today we're going to be looking at a scenario where INSOC rises and becomes a real thing. Surprisingly, it's not in Oceania, but the Democratic Republic of Congo. We see INSOC rebels disguised as another ideology, which I can't really think of one, increasing their influence and rebellions into Western Congo. And it's the Democratic Republic of Congo. Shut up. Eventually, we see the entire overtaking of the country, and literally 98% of the budget is going to the military. Like 1% of it, the rest is just going to the party. Eventually, we see the invasion of other African countries such as Equatorial Guinea, and now they have a large coastal area. We also see Rwanda and Burundi being pulled through, as well as Tanzania. They decide not to invade the most iconic countries of all time. This obviously being us, all the countries in Southern Africa. You guys are amazing, by the way. So they just decide to invade Kenya and Somalia and encircle tons of troops. By the way, unrealistic. Like, this is probably my most unrealistic video yet. Chill out. We see the invasion into Somalia with some Somaliland rebels popping up, but it's still INSOC. We see the invasion into the Central African Republic, Ethiopia, Cameroon, and South Sudan, as well as Nigeria, which the UN is actually pleased about. We see the continuing invasion as Chad is starting to be threatened. They decide that the only way that they're going to be able to take out the Chad country of Chad is to just also invade its neighbors so they can encircle it. With this, they do that by crossing into Libya and being able to encircle the large country. Like, seriously, it's literally in the shape of the Chad meme head. My table's having a stroke, okay? With this, we see Libya being cut off and getting even more sea access. We also see them take over some parts of northwestern Africa, and a continuing push into the remaining countries that exist there. We also see some minor influence popping up in Yemen. With this, almost the entire continent of Africa has been taken over. We see a continuing capturing of the coast and some islands. Western Sahara rises up against Morocco, and we see a continuing push. Now, once again, this is all blitzkrieg. With most of Africa depleted, they just decide to clear one of the rest of the countries, and after using a surprise attack and violating a peace treaty, they're somehow able to take over southern Africa. With this, we see a massive encirclement of Africa, and now an entire continent is just under a horrible authoritarian party, which they finally let out to the world. With this, we see the world fearing for their safety as they just took over a continent. So with this, we see some of the worst enemies actually pairing up together. This includes China and North Korea, Russia teaming up with Japan, America, and NATO. This also leads to countries like Ukraine and Russia teaming up together, Iran and Saudi Arabia teaming up together, and it's a mess, okay? With this, we see them crossing back into Yemen, taking over the INSOC influence, and starting to push into Africa. We eventually continue to see more of Europe join, although they wait until they're fully mobilized. We see some small landings in the Mediterranean Sea. Fall landings. What? So now, with all the world fully mobilized and ready to attack, that plan is put into action. Once the Caribbean are these colored? Not Caribbean, but yeah, they're colored. So with this, the red team has a plan, and they quickly take over the Red Sea out of just pure determination. They eventually take over the southern Arabian Peninsula and the Persian Gulf. We then see a push up into Saudi Arabia, taking lots of oil fields with it, and an invasion into India and Pakistan. We see a massive encirclement and the push up into Turkey. With this, they gathered their forces and they just plumbed through Asia. They're able to take over most of Central Asia, with only Kazakhstan being remaining. We also see them making a naval invasion into Brazil, and a clean push through the South American continent is completed. We go for the southern forces first, and then followed up by the north. French Guiana is the only one that's able to hold out on any capacity. What's supposed to happen? Okay. Yeah, that's better. With this, we also see them taking over the Panama Canal and lots of Caribbean islands. Almost all of Cuba is taken over, and an invasion of Iceland is created, with them deciding to push into Greenland and Canadian islands. Eventually, we see a push into southern India, taking out Sri Lanka and Indonesia. as well as the rest of Southeast Asia, being mostly occupied under Ingsoc. Now it's time to invade Taiwan. They are pushed back multiple times because Taiwan is freaking hard to invade, but they eventually get in. But they had to use lots of their resources. So technically, the empire looks a bit more like this now, with all the red being obviously the empire because of all the resources wasted. With this, French Guiana falls, and we see an invasion of Europe continuing. Eventually, the blue team is able to get their act together, and America starts to take over the rest the Caribbean again and liberates parts of South America. Eventually, we see Europe also deciding to blitzkrieg right back and starting to take over to northern Africa because they're pretty used to this. Azerbaijan is reliberated using the power of national anthems, and Russia and Turkey, I guess you could say, yeah. We see Saudi Arabia being mostly liberated. Well, not really, but you know what I mean. And an encirclement of forces in Central Europe is created. We see India being split into two, leading to the entire Ingsoc party being split. Although Ingsoc decides to bounce back from this by creating a massive encirclement. With this whole area is rebellious to China, and it just kind of falls. We see the Chinese coast being taken over, and Japan. We see the continuing push as they're even able to develop nukes and take them as well. With this, they decide to do a little bit of trolling and nuke the frick out of Washington, D.C. and other blue team countries in North America. We also see Paris and London being hit, as well as Berlin and Warsaw, as they're seen as important. With this, the blue team is understandably a little bit mad. Just a thought. So with this, the blue team decides to bounce back by nuking Beijing. They nuke it to shreds. That's a bit much, okay. So yeah, they nuke Beijing, and Insoc's main goal is to take over Oceania right now. They don't really care about the nuke, but they get it back anyway. They invade Oceania and Asia by taking over some of the islands and taking over New Zealand. We see the invasion into Australia, as most of it's just desert. Mongolia is captured, as well as most of Russia, as it's split into two. Eventually, since the new capital and basically lots of the political party is stationed in Australia, with the capital of Australia being the new capital of Ingsoc, the world thought this was a good idea, but then Ingsoc just takes it back, so whatever. We see Ingsoc continuing to push up into northern South America. That was extremely weird to say. And then the world's just kind of done with this. North America breezes through using an extreme amount of forces, and it causes lots of life lost. Greenland kind of just falls back, as well as Iceland, because they're kind of useless. And the continuing push into Ingsoc is created. Alright, let's rush through this. The African coast is also captured by the blue team, but then we get a stalemate after some of it is recaptured.